on 16 February 2009 at 3:40 p.m. In Stamford, Connecticut, USA, an adult male chimpanzee named Travis, who had been pampered as a beloved pet for 14 years, suddenly lost control and launched a frenzied attack on a 55-year-old woman. This 12-minute-long horrific assault only ended when police arrived and shot Travis dead. What triggered this tragedy remains a mystery to this day. Travis was adopted by Sandra and Jerome Herold right after his birth in 1995 at a chimpanzee sanctuary in Missouri. The couple paid $50,000 for the 3-day-old infant Chimp, an enormous sum at the time, and brought him home to their large house in Stamford, Connecticut. Sandra and Jerome ran a successful towing and transport business, but their personal life had been marked by profound loss. Years earlier, they had lost their only child, a daughter, and the grief never fully left them. When Jerome was diagnosed with cancer in the early 2000s, the emotional burden fell even heavier on Sandra. After Jerome died in 2004, Travis became her entire world, the child she had lost, the companion who would never leave. She dressed him in human clothes, let him sleep in her bed, fed him lobster, steak, and ice cream cake, and even allowed him to drink wine from a glass at the dinner table. Travis learned to brush his own teeth, operate the family computer, watch baseball and change channels with the remote, and ride in the front seat of the family car like any other passenger. Neighbor Tony Macari used to wrestle with him regularly and said, "Travis was more obedient than my own nephews. He always knew when to stop playing." He starred in Pepsi and Old Navy commercials, appeared on the Maury Povich show, and was loved by the entire town. On the surface, Travis seemed completely humanized, but that was exactly where the problem began. In the 1990s and early 2000s, owning a chimpanzee as a pet was surprisingly common among wealthy Americans. Celebrities and ordinary families alike saw chimps as the ultimate status symbol, living, breathing children that appeared on talk shows, in movies, and in glossy magazine spreads. The public image was irresistible: cute baby chimps in diapers, playing with toys, riding bicycles. Very few people talked about what happens when those babies grow into powerful adults weighing over 200 pounds, with the strength of several grown men. Sandra and Jerome were part of this larger cultural wave. They genuinely believed they were giving Travis the best possible life, better, they thought, than any sanctuary could offer. What they did not fully understand was that every exotic pet owner was participating in the same unspoken gamble, betting that love and human routines could override millions of years of wild evolution. Most people think chimpanzees are just smarter dogs, but science tells us they are nothing like that. Chimpanzees have extremely high intelligence. They use tools, possess self-awareness, and even understand revenge. But deep inside, wild instincts always dominate. Males experience a massive surge in testosterone around 12-15 years old, triggering strong dominance urges and sudden aggression. Experts often say, you can never truly trust a chimpanzee because it is not a pet. It is always engaged in a power struggle with its owner. Travis was exactly 14 years old at the time, something Sandra probably never realized. In the wild, chimpanzees live in complex social groups of up to 150 individuals, roaming territories that can span many square miles. Young males learn their place through years of play fighting, grooming, and observing the troop's hierarchy. Females stay with their mothers for life, forming tight family bonds. Travis, however, grew up completely alone, the only chimpanzee in a human household. There were no other chimps to teach him boundaries, no troop to challenge his growing strength, and no vast forest to channel his natural energy. Scientific studies show that chimpanzees raised this way often develop severe psychological problems. Repetitive rocking, hair plucking, self-biting, and extreme anxiety when routines are disrupted. Travis began showing some of these stress signals in his later years, yet the family continued to treat him exactly as they had when he was a baby. The gap between his wild nature and his artificial human life had quietly widened for 14 years. In October 2003, Travis was riding in the car when a pedestrian threw something at him. He immediately let himself out and chased the person. Police tried to lure him back with ice cream and cookies, but every time he finished eating, he would open the door again, playfully chasing officers around the car and blocking traffic for hours before finally being subdued with a tranquilizer dart. A neighbor also claimed Travis bit her and tried to pull her into a car in 1996. At the time, everyone dismissed these incidents as minor episodes, but from a psychological perspective, they were clear warning signs. Travis was already beginning to show dominant, "I'm the boss" behavior. By 2009, Travis had also been diagnosed with Lyme disease, a painful condition that caused joint inflammation and irritability. Sandra, desperate to keep him calm, began giving him human medications, including the anti-anxiety drug Xanax, without full veterinary supervision. Multiple friends and even some local officials had gently suggested that Travis might be happier in a professional sanctuary, but Sandra refused. Travis was her family. She could not imagine life without him. On February 16, Travis grabbed the car keys and ran out. Sandra called her friend Charla Nash for help. Charla arrived with Travis's favorite Tickle Me Elmo doll. The moment he saw her, Travis's eyes changed, perhaps because of Charla's new hairstyle, or perhaps because of the Xanax-laced tea Sandra had given him earlier that day, confirmed in the autopsy. The drug can sometimes cause paradoxical reactions, hallucinations, aggression, and rage. The 200-pound muscle mass slammed into her, tearing at her face and hands. Sandra desperately fought back with a shovel and stabbed him with a butcher knife from behind. Later, she said through tears, "It felt like I was stabbing my own body." He turned and looked at me with eyes that seemed to ask, "Mom, why are you doing this?" The attack continued until police arrived. Travis even tried to open the police car door and smashed the side mirror. Only after the officer fired several shots at close range did he stagger back to his cage and die. This is the most terrifying part of chimpanzee psychology. Once that switch flips, no amount of love can stop it. Charla survived but lost her hands, face, and eyesight. She underwent an experimental full-face transplant just to live. She later appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show and stated clearly, "Chimpanzees should never be kept as pets by anyone." Sandra died just over a year later from an aortic aneurysm and was buried with Travis's cremated remains. This tragedy was not just an accident, it was the price of misunderstanding chimpanzee psychology. Sandra had suffered a series of heartbreaking losses over the last several years, beginning with the death of her only child, then her husband, then her beloved chimp Travis, as well as the tragic mauling of her friend and employee Charla Nash. Travis's story shows us that chimpanzees are not cute substitute family members. They possess complex emotions and remarkable intelligence, yet they always retain the wild dominance drive and explosive power of their species. The moment we treat a wild animal as a pet, we are already playing a dangerous game with nature. The only real protection is to respect their wild side.